to Ghoul's Night Out. I am Gory B Movie, and today we're going to be talking about the horror of Stephen King. With me today is Tracy from Scream Radio.
Hi!
And Christina from Bunyip's Horror Gallery.
Hello!
So, ladies, Stephen King, have you guys seen the new It movie?
Yes. I saw opening night. I loved it.
Did you get a chance to see it, Tracy?
My daughters went to go see it, so basically yes, because they told me the entire movie.
Oh, we loved it. We went and saw it, and I haven't had that experience where you go to a movie and immediately you want to go back. You know, like you're on an amusement park and you just want to get back in line and go on the ride again. I haven't had that experience since I was like a teenager. It was so much fun.
Yeah. I've been wanting to see it.
We debated a lot about what was our favorite movie of the year, because I think Get Out, there's nothing I would change about the movie. That is a solid movie. I think that's probably maybe a better made, because it's not flawless. It's not. But I think it is probably my favorite movie of the year just because it's the most fun I've had.
Yeah.
That was an awesome movie. I really liked it.
So much fun. And I reread the book, which is so long. I love how Stephen King makes his books double as weapons. Like, I could be reading that on a park bench. Someone could try to mug me, and I could beat the shit out of them with it and walk away without a scratch.
The Stand is good for that, too.
Oh, yeah. The Stand is actually my favorite of his books, and it's the one I've read the most. I read that, I think, maybe 14 times in high school. And the reason why is really stupid. It's because I had the biggest crush on Nick from The Stand. I know, and I know it sounds terrible. Like, oh, you had a crush on the mute guy? That figures, Gory. But I just thought it was so amazing that this character who had nothing, I mean, he was completely at the bottom rung of, like, people. He had absolutely nothing. He couldn't even speak or anything, and he ended up becoming such a pivotal, like, hero in this story, which was, at the time, it just made me think, you can do anything. This character who should have just been, maybe written off, became so pivotal to that story.
Yeah.
Sadly, I've never read The Stand, but I remember watching the movie when I was in high school, and I thought it was really good. But I should put it on my next list because I loved reading it so much that I'm actually reading it a second time. So I'm like halfway through my second read already.
So good.
It really is. I just love the way Stephen King built the relationships between the characters, and it just really built a feeling of nostalgia. Even though I never grew up in the time, like, of the 50s, obviously, but it sort of built that nostalgia because my dad would have been born around that time, too. So it kind of reminded me of some of the stuff that he would have grown up with, and I just kind of felt nostalgic for that time.
It reminded me so much of when I was a kid. When I was a kid, a big part of my childhood was spent on an American Air Force base in England. And we lived in New Haversfield, which, by the way, this base you can't go to anymore because apparently they did nuclear testing. So it's one of the most forbidden places in the world. And I grew up there. Anyhow, we had this massive forest in the center of the base, and that's where all the kids would go to play. Like, deep in there was like a all wood playground that would give you splinters. There was a tree that had been struck by lightning that we would sit and, like, talk on, and then there's this massive field of just, like, poppies and such, and behind it there was this big mansion, and apparently it was abandoned, but you'd hear dogs and stuff barking there, so it's just, like, ripe for, like, I don't know, it seemed like a horror adventure could happen at any minute. I mean, no, none ever did, but it seemed like it could happen. And that's what it feels like, when they were in the Barrens. It's like they were just at the big, you knew a horror adventure was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I like about all of his books, though, and movies and just stories in general, because there's always this impending doom. You read it from the beginning, waiting on the inevitable to occur, and then when it does, it's like, oh my gosh, how are they going to get out of it? So everything from his shorter stories, his anthologies, all the way through to books like The Stand, they're just, to me, very well written, and so engrossing that you don't mind reading a book, that you can beat people. So it's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
I love how one of the things he does is he's so wonderful at setting the atmosphere. Like in Cujo is a good one. Cujo, it's set in the summer and it's like the hottest fucking summer ever, which becomes important when they're stuck in the car.
Like today. Okay.
Yeah. But it already adds that stuffy, hot, I want to kill somebody feeling. And so by the time the dog gets there, like, you're with them. You know where they're at. And in Derry, in It, the floods are such an important background element of It that it adds so much to the atmosphere of the book and of, the miniseries and of the movie. And when I saw the movie, I saw a lot of that in there. They had the horses and stuff, for the public works set up all around town. Georgie runs into one. And I think, Tracy, you're going to have a great time seeing this movie because what's wonderful about it is there's a lot of hidden things in the background. At one point, when George is running down the street, there's a round object covered by a tarp, and I'm like, that's the fucking turtle. I fucking know it. It's the turtle.
Yeah, they talked about that.
But there's another scene, and I don't want to give you guys too many spoilers here. It's kind of in the trailer, so I don't think I am. There's a scene where the Losers Club are in this garage, and they're watching a slideshow of pictures that Bill has put up to show them, the sewer tunnels and stuff, and it goes into pictures of Bill's family. Well, quickly it shifts to Pennywise. Pennywise is on the screen, and then he comes out, and I'm like, that's from fucking Sundog right there. That is from the Sundog.
Yeah.
So I think
I really like that scene. It was pretty good. The whole theater jumped at that scene. It was pretty funny to see everybody's reactions at that exact moment. It just seemed like everyone enjoyed it, and that just made it so much fun to go see it with those kinds of people. I've been to theaters where they're not such a fun crowd, but this crowd was amazing, and I feel like probably everyone had that same experience because everyone was so into the movie and going to go see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was great. It was a full house, and I hate going to the theater when it's packed. Mm-hmm. But once the movie started, everyone was just fixated in the movie, and I like it when people are giving the movie a chance. I have had that experience when I saw the Evil Dead remake, when I saw Paranormal Activity, where people they can't handle the silence or they can't handle being scared, so they start making jokes, and it's like, I didn't come here for your comedy routine. I came here to see a movie, and thankfully the audience at It was there to see a movie. So that was amazing.
That's so true. I remember a few years back when Secret Window came out, and that's one of my absolute favorite movies.
Yes.
And sadly, there were a couple of teenage girls in front of me and my dad, and they were like already ripping it, like, oh, this is boring. I'm like, just leave then. We don't want to hear you.
Don't be there.
But I was just like, okay, get out. But I'm glad that no one was like that in this theater. That's most of the reason why I don't go to the theaters, because of the crowds. But this time was really good.
And the crowd can ruin a movie. I remember for the longest time, I hated the movie 28 Days Later, which we all know is a classic film. It's an amazing film. And I hated it because when I saw it, it was us and a group of guys. And they were, I think, stoned or something, but they were shouting and stuff, and I was so irritated by them that it ruined my experience. I couldn't get invested in the film, and so for the longest time, I'm like, oh, it's just too long, and, it's really, you can't follow it. And when I watched it later on, I was like, wow, I completely missed a great movie, like, because of the crowd.
Right.
Yeah, that's terrible. Sometimes I go teacher mode and I like totally go over and be like, you need to be quiet right now. And that usually works.
Yeah.
But I don't always do it.
I think the worst ever, it wasn't even a horror movie. When I was a teenager seeing Aladdin, the kids behind me were pulling my hair. Like, actually pulling my hair.
What?
So I finally just turned around and I was like, can you control your animals? Like, seriously. I'm losing hair here, people. We got lots of people in the chat today. Hi, Chris Wright and Auntie Creeps, my girl. Crazy Ralph's here. I saw Ariel. Michael Villegas is here. Blu-ray Dan. I saw Al a little bit earlier. Dead Real. So I would love to hear from you guys in the chat. Post what your favorite Stephen King book or movies are. Let's talk a little bit about the Stephen King movies. A lot of people, Stephen King himself have criticized these movies. A lot of people say they're hit and miss, and I have a number of favorites. So I'm largely, even the ones people hate, I love Maximum Overdrive. I love Sleepwalkers. I fucking love
Sleepwalkers. That. I wanted Chris to go buy me that.
No vegetables, no dessert. Oh, fuck yeah.
Seriously,
I love that.
I haven't seen it in such a long time. I've been wanting to watch it.
It's such a good time. Cujo.
I love the corn club.
I saw someone mention Cujo. Cujo is such a solid film, and I have to say I love Dee Wallace. That is one of her best performances ever. And for women in horror, I think it was such a progressive film, because one of the things I've complained about a lot in this show is that when we see moms, and even Dee Wallace in E.T. and in other movies, in Critters, the mom is the nurturer, and she under all this duress is cool and sweet and just putting the kids first, and that's not realistic. If you're in a life or death situation, particularly when your child is there and you're worried about the safety of your child, you're going to snap at some point. And there's a part where she tells Tad, he's crying, he wants his daddy, and she's like, just be quiet, because she needs to think. And I'm like, now that's an honest moment. That's a good moment. That's real. I love my son, but in that situation, I would have probably done the same thing, just because I'm scared.
Yeah, well, that was at that point where everything just felt hopeless. She couldn't get out the car. He was screaming and screaming and screaming, and as a mom, I've been there. Not to that extent, thank goodness, but just the whole being overwhelmed with trying to figure out the situation, and this child that is like, but I need you, and yeah, he was scared, and I want my daddy.
and that's the worst too, because it's challenging her ability to care for him, and at the same time, in her head, she's doing the same thing. She wants the dad there too, know, but she has to be the fearless one, and that's a really, really hard position to be in.
Yeah, so when she was like, I want him too, but she had to pull it together and work her way through that, and that was a situation that in real life a lot of us probably wouldn't have survived, because she especially when she did get out the car, and then he got a hold of her and bit her, and then she got back into the car and passed out from pain, and my heart at that point went out to both of them, because now you have this kid who's already terrified, and his mom's passed out and she's in pain, and it was just this this impossible situation. So she really, really played that part well. And cool fact, she's following Scream Radio on Twitter.
That's cool. She's amazing. One of the interesting things about Cujo is it is one of the few movies that Stephen King says the movie is better than the book. He wishes he would have let Tad live in the book, and sadly, he does not remember writing Cujo. He was doing a lot of drugs at the time, and he has no memory of writing it, which he says is unfortunate because he does like the book, but he does wish he would have let Tad live, and so he says the movie is better than the book.
I was wondering about why he decided to kill him off, but I guess that's one of the ultimate terrors, is losing someone that you love. I also remember when I read the book, I was in high school, and I felt so bad for the dog, because in the beginning, you can see from the dog's point of view, and it's well, I'm a good dog, and then you can see the thought process changing, and I'm such an animal lover that that broke my heart.
I loved that about the book. We got to see a little bit more inside Cujo's mind. We see it a bit in the movie when he's confronted by his boy, but in the book that scene is so much better explained, because it's the last bit of him. He uses every bit of himself to not hurt his kid, but this is a sweet dog. And it's a tragedy, because he doesn't want to hurt anybody. His mind isn't his own anymore. And so it's very, he thinks that this woman, because of his sickness, is a threat. And everything is amplified, and they did a great job of showing that in the movie. But it's so tragic. The only thing I didn't like is they kind of imply in the book that Cujo is possessed by the killer from the Dead Zone, and I didn't need that. I think this really just kind of tragic story about this dog was enough.
I didn't remember that at all, but it's been a while.
I think it was just their way or his way of connecting everybody in this universe.
And
because you have so many carryovers from each of the books and each story that, you know, this universe that he's created is so large. And sometimes it's just a matter of a last name that makes you remember, oh yeah, Pangborn from Needful Things, and you know, those types of little Easter eggs that you can find in each one of the stories. Ariel, I watched, not only did I see it, I loved the Dead Zone TV show, Ariel. Like, that was, I religiously watched it. I loved it, and I thought it was a really well done series on USA, and I was quite upset when it went off because I wanted to see it all the way through. I hate when they do that. But yeah, it's just, you know, Stephen he's a master of just weaving these universes together. And so one of the things that I had a discussion with somebody about was the turtle in it, and how they feel like that is the turtle represented, that they talk about in the Dark Tower series, and so which would make Pennywise, or the monster, the antithesis of the turtle. Yeah. And so it's a big you know, everything is interconnected, and I can see that. I can see where those parallels can be drawn.
There's a lot of new Stephen King stuff coming out on the horizon. One of them is a Castle Rock TV show that Bill Skarsgård is signed on to, so I wonder if he's going to play Pennywise. But Castle Rock will kind of explore a lot of these interconnected towns and characters, and I think it's going to tell us some new stories. So I'm excited for that. Cool. There's another one based on a short story. I don't know much about it because I haven't read the short story. I can't remember what it's called. But I know it's about a man and his son. The man has killed his wife, and then immediately afterwards he's, like, haunted. That sounds interesting. There's Gerald's Game, which I love the book Gerald's Game, so I need to see this. And
Gerald's Game is awesome.
Oh, it's so good. And then, of course, we also just had the Dark Tower movie as well, which I've heard is terrible.
Oh, really?
I heard that too.
Too bad.
The problem with the Dark Tower movie, from what I've heard, I haven't seen it, is the Dark Tower is really complicated. It's a long book series, and it gets pretty weird. But the first one's pretty simple, and I've heard that if they had just done The Gunslinger, the first book, it would have been good, because it's a pretty straightforward story. What they tried to do was all the books in one movie. That's just not going to work. It's such a bizarre universe, and I think you need to kind of ease into it. You can't just, you know, whack people over the head with it.
It is. It's too expansive a thing to try to stick all of that into one movie. There are even stories from the Gunslinger series, from the Dark Tower series, in the anthology Everything's Eventual. It's the nuns and another story. So it's impossible to put all of that in one film. So yeah, they should have just taken it just one book, one part of the universe at, you know, that universe at a time, because you can't. It's too much. It's too big.
I'm surprised they did that.
Yeah,
seems like a really bad decision.
The short story Stephen King adaptation, I can't remember the name of it, but I do know it's going to be on Netflix, so that one does sound good. Gerald's Game. Have you guys read Gerald's Game?
Yes.
I did not read it, but I've seen the trailer and I know what it's about, and I'm really excited to see it. It looks really good.
I read that book when I was in the 6th grade. I remember I got a few bizarre looks from teachers who were like, "Girl, what are you reading?" You know, I remember a counselor type guy where he'd like get together a group of like teenagers from the school to get together to talk, have them talk to each other, and I brought it with me, and he's like, "What are you reading? Come on." Seriously. But I was like, it's really good. And I remember that one had me like on the edge of my seat. I read a majority of Stephen King's books when I was younger. Cujo was actually one of the first books I read. I started reading very early. I read Cujo before I started school, and I don't think I understood any of it. But it's just my mom would tell me about these things. You know, we'd go to the doctor's office, and she would be reading her book and she would be like, well, do you want me to read to you? And so she would just read me snippets, and then I'd get very curious and be like, well, tell me more about this girl, Carrie. Where does her powers originate from? What happened to her as a kid? And she's like, girl, just read the book. Read the book, you know? So I was reading these books very, very young. And Gerald's Game I read when it came out, and it's so amazing. Gerald's Game is about a couple. They are on a kind of a retreat out in the middle of nowhere, and they decide to spice up their love life. They're going to handcuff the wife to the bed, and then the man has a heart attack, and he fucking dies. And she's handcuffed to the bed in the middle of nowhere. And she tries to get out. She does a lot of very clever things. Like she cuts her wrist at one point to try and slip her wrist out. But it gives her time to really go over some messed up things that happened to her in her childhood, and she starts to kind of lose it. But it's very internal, but it's still horrifying. God, and when the dog comes in and eats her husband at one point. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and then not just that, but the what you think is supernatural that comes to visit her, and then actually turns out that there was a serial killer in the area.
Yes.
Yeah, so that more than, although she was hallucinating from lack of food and all that other stuff, it's like that probably really actually was him coming in and peeking in at her while she was in the bed, and she just didn't realize that he was real. So that was a cool little twist.
I'm excited to see this. Are you guys it's going to be on Netflix.
Anything, as soon as I heard Gerald's Game was coming out, I was really excited about that.
I'm excited.
Just like Mr. Mercedes.
You know, I haven't read that one, but there's a movie adaptation coming out.
It is so good.
It is?
The whole trilogy is good. It's such a good, it's the whole trilogy is really well. And End of Watch is, you sometimes you read books and the story itself doesn't end well. The last book in that trilogy was End of Watch, and he closed it out well. I was pulling for one of the characters to make it all the way through. So it was a little bit of a gut punch at the end, but it's a really good series.
I haven't read his new stuff either. He's got Gwendy's Button Box, and he did something with Owen, his son, as well. One thing I wanted to mention that I forgot I was going to bring up. We always try to celebrate women of horror here, and one woman of horror I would like to celebrate today is Mary Lambert. Mary Lambert was the director of Pet Sematary, and I have to say Pet Sematary is the best Stephen King movie I've ever seen. It's better than the It movie, and I love the fucking It movie.
I love Pet Sematary.
To this day, Pet Sematary has scared me more than any other movie I've seen in my life. I'm not easily scared, but the scene where Zelda's like calling Rachel, oh my god, every scene with Zelda scarred me for fucking life. That scared the hell out of me. Her direction, her storytelling was fantastic, and especially in the 80s, we didn't have a lot of female directors, and especially not a lot of female directors of horror. So Mary Lambert, we salute you.
Yeah, Zelda was, oh my god. She was like, and I ran out the house and they thought I was crying, but I was really laughing. And
so haunting.
Damn. When she sat up and she was like, and she left, he was like, your parents shouldn't have left you in the house with her. Who does that? And I was like, holy crap.
The book is solid too. A lot of his books, I love Stephen King, but sometimes it's like, honey, you need an editor. And they're just a little too long. Like Dr. Sleep, I liked it, but it did not need to be an epic length novel. It did not need to be that long. Pet Sematary is solid. It's very briskly paced. It's not longer than it needs to be. If you have not read Stephen King before, that's one of the ones I would recommend starting with. Pet Sematary is a solid book.
I loved Dr. Sleep.
I loved it too. It was long.
I loved it. It was long, but it was okay because I loved it. I loved the denouement. I loved that his father was able to come back. I loved the niece. Like, it was such a fun book. I would love to see them make that into a film. But what it reminded me of was his Richard Bachman book, Insomnia.
I didn't read that one. What's that one about?
So Insomnia was about, it was an older guy, and so it's focused on the what insomnia does. And so after not being able to sleep for so long, the characters were able to see like in between reality, but they saw like colors. And so he was able to begin to see what was happening in like this parallel to where we lived. And he could like he could see like reds and blues and greens and different things like that because of the lack of sleep. And so he was able to use that to save this little girl and just kind of move about. But he could also see the beings that existed in this universe, that again, and it was because he couldn't sleep. So it began to manifest with him. He could see things that we couldn't. It was a really good book, but the people in it, the big bad in it, would remind you of the big bad in Dr. Sleep.
This is another one of his stories that is placed in Derry, Maine, I believe. I remember reading that somewhere online. And also, I also heard this is one of the ones that have not been adapted into like a film or TV series or anything. So it was one of the ones I think someone is looking at right now. I might be wrong, but that's what I had read online.
The guy who did It wants to do Pet Sematary, and I'm kind of unsure how I feel about that. I mean, he did a fantastic job. He's also the director of Mama. He did a fantastic job with It, and I remember when I heard about It too, I was like, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I was wrong. It was fantastic, and I'm very glad he made that movie. But Pet Sematary, I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's the scariest movie I've ever seen. It's still scary to this day. I will not watch that movie alone. And so I don't know how I feel about a remake. I'm very reluctant to get on board with that.
I kind of want them to leave that alone. But part of the reason why I don't want them to touch it is because of the people who played the parents, Judd and Gage. Like, they were ideal for that movie.
Mika Ventimiglia, who played Gage, so amazing. Such a sweetheart. Cutest fucking zombie ever, is what it is. No fair.
And he grew up well. He's one of the few child actors that grew up and didn't have any issues. He grew up well. He's very well adjusted. He has a career now. Yeah, he was in a zombie movie. He's very well adjusted, but
very nice guy too.
Yeah, and it's just one of those movies where people were really cast well, and I really can't see anybody else playing those roles. And it's not to say that it can't be done. It's just one of those movies that,
it's like I said about Get Out, though. There's not a thing I would change about that movie.
Yeah,
that movie is so effective, and so I don't think it's time for a remake. It's not Pet well done. I mean, everything is just Blaze, the girl who played Ellie, it was fantastic. I mean,
yes,
just so wonderful, and it just
I
really
loved her.
Gets you. God, she's amazing. Even though they gave her a stripper name.
Daddy's gonna do something really bad. I love her.
So good. I love Pet Sematary.
So awesome.
What are let's talk about maybe some of the ones we didn't like, or ones that are maybe our guilty pleasures. Also, today our saint of Ghoul Night Out is Carrie White, who taught us that sometimes you gotta burn a bitch.
Yes! Carrie. So, cool fact about Carrie. He wrote Carrie when he was in his alcohol, drug-induced days, and he actually threw it away.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
His wife rescued it out of the bin.
She rescued it out of the bin and sent it in to the publishing company, and that ended up being the first book to get published.
Another interesting factoids about
he threw it away.
Carrie, he was an English teacher at the time, which is where a lot of the Shining inspiration came from. He was an English teacher, and he fucking hated it. He hated how you couldn't just do your job. You'd always get pulled into, like, managing a club or something, and he just wanted to fucking write. And they had no money. He barely had any money to pay his fucking light bill. And when he was at the school, one of the teachers, you know, they knew he wrote short stories. They knew he'd been in some magazines. And they challenged him and said, I bet you can't write a woman. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to take that challenge, and I'm going to write from a female point of view. And he started doing it, and then he was like, you know what? She's fucking right. I can't do this. But, you know, like you said, his wife saved that book. And when he got that published, he got his first royalty check, which was, like, very small. They were able to buy their first family car. I mean, that's how broke they were. He talked about in his biography on writing how during that time, there was a time when his son Owen got really sick, and he couldn't even afford to get the medication. You know, he was really struggling. So, I mean, he started from the bottom. They
bought the manuscript, I believe, for $2,500.
Which is
and then after it published, and it sold well after it published, but he came up out of his haze and he read it and he was like, this sucks, and he threw it away. And she fished it out the garbage and sent it in, which is, you know, thank goodness for his wife.
Necessarily about his work, but one of the things I just find so incredibly charming, because Stephen King is a fucking pervert. I mean, read it. The man's a fucking pervert. One of my favorite lines in the book 8 was, that's the biggest boner I ever saw. I mean, he is so fucking perverse. And so you'd think that this is a crass man who has no heart, that he's just all about the blood, guts, dicks, and tits. But he has dedicated more of his books to his wife than anyone else. He loves his fucking wife. He loves his fucking Tabitha. Children. Watch him talk about his kids in interviews. I remember the year that Double Feature and Nosferatu came out. Those are books by Joe Hill and Owen King, his children. And he was beaming with pride when he talks about his daughter Naomi King, who she is a lesbian vicar at a church that is particularly open to the LGBT community. When he talks about his kids, he is so full of love and pride, and even though he doesn't have an editor, he does have his family read his work, and he does take what they say to heart. So it's just amazing. He's got a really big heart. In fact, Lisley's story, after he had his accident, he was hit by a car on his way home from a movie, and the next book he wrote was from a Buick 8. But he was hit, and he nearly died. He still is struggling with that accident to this day. But while he was recovering, his wife took that opportunity, because he is a workaholic. I mean, literally, he is addicted to work. She took that opportunity to clean his office, and he saw his office completely bare of all the books and of all his work, and he realized that that's what it would look like if he died. And so that was inspired by essentially what he imagined would happen if he passed away, like what would happen to his wife. But yeah, I mean, their story is a great love story.
Yeah, they took that and they made that into what started out with promise and then ended up really crappily a made-for-TV series called Kingdom Hospital.
Yeah.
And the first few episodes were really good, and then it just went off the rails, and then they canceled it. But it started off really well, and that was the intent. That was where it started. Was him? It was a guy hit by a car, ended up in a coma in the hospital, and then all these supernatural things were happening around him. The first few episodes were like, oh my gosh, yay! And then after that, it was like, okay. Like, it just went off the rails.
That was one I never saw.
Oh, you didn't want to see it?
No.
You didn't want to see it. It came on. it was. I think it was like, and it was a good few, probably like 6 or 8 episodes or something like that. And again, it started off really interesting. You had this. You had the supernatural thing in the hospital. He was in this realm because he was in a coma and all this other stuff, and it was really cool. And then the anteater came into it, and it was, what the hell is the anteater? And then the little girl was help me, and then he did, and it just went off the rails. It was like, no, it was so bad.
Yeah, there's been a number of them, and one of the things I like to point out, being I'm a horror fan, and when you say you're a horror fan to people who are not, within the genre, aren't horror addicts, a lot of times they'll bring up Stephen King, and they'll be like, he just writes trash, and then I always say to them, oh well, did you like Shawshank Redemption? Because that was based on his fucking book. In your face, Stand By Me, based on his fucking book. Go suck a dick. Because then they're like, oh yeah, those are amazing films.
The Green Mile too.
Green Mile, fantastic.
Green Mile, Stand By Me,
very popular with mainstream audiences.
Yeah,
I think I remember reading something. He said he never considered himself a horror author. He was just a writer, and sometimes horror would slip into his writing. But he really worked on focusing on the relationships between the characters and building that and creating a story that just flowed. So he never really considered himself as a horror writer.
And I think
which I thought
the
was
best stories come from when you're not necessarily writing for a genre, you're writing to tell a story. And I think all best stories come from, as a writer myself, I think all best stories come from having an incident and saying, well, what if? Like Stephen King wrote Pet Sematary because of an incident that happened very similar with his kid. They lived by a very, very busy road. His son almost ran into the road. There was big semi-trucks that would come by, and it just went from, what if his son did get hit? What if there was another cemetery? And that's where they all go. It's like you need to kind of start with the story, not the genre.
Well, one of my co-workers ordered his book. I can't remember the name right now, but it's his autobiography. It talks about what happened to him when he was a kid. And so he had a very abusive babysitter. Used to lock him in closets and do bad things to him. So I talked to a lot of authors doing Scream Radio, and what they all will say, what they all tell me is that writing is therapy. It's chief therapy. It's being able to take your nightmares and put them on paper. So the genesis of a lot of these horror stories come from these things that these authors are dealing with in one way or another, or somebody else has experienced, and they take them and they put these things on paper, and it's digging into and exposing to light those fears that we wouldn't even talk about ourselves. So even reading these books and watching these movies is therapy, because it puts our fears right there on the screen in order for us to be able to say, yeah, that scared the crap out of me. And I can get past
a lot of these bad memories.
Yeah.
A lot of his fears are very relatable too. Like, a lot of them deal with death or dying or losing a loved one, and I just feel like that's so relatable. Like Riding the Bullet, I just rewatched that today, and it's basically about this man who romanticizes death and how he went through everything that he went through in his life. And it was just a really good movie because it talks about how we all go on this ride of our lives. We all ride the bullet, and I just thought it was a really, really interesting way to look at it, at life.
I really liked it.
I have for you guys, being that you've also read a lot of Stephen King short stories and books, is there a book or short story of his that you would like to see made to film?
Rose Matter.
I hear working on that one.
God, Rose Matter needs to be made into a movie.
Yeah, I remember reading Rose Matter in high school. That is a good one. I think the scariest short story I've ever read was The Boogeyman, and I've seen a couple TV episodes where they kind of did it, but The Boogeyman really scared the shit out of me. Did you guys read that one?
Creepy. I haven't read that one. The Boogeyman is
it's a guy talking to a shrink, and he's talking about how essentially his whole family has been murdered by this Boogeyman. And the part that creeped me out the most is after each one of his family members is killed, he'd say the closet door was open just a crack. And so whenever my closet door is open to this fucking day just a crack, I'm like, I'm gonna close that shit. But at the end, there's a pretty cool twist, and I don't know, I think it'd be really cool to see it really well done.
Yeah.
Somehow.
If it was done well, it would be really effective. And the thing is it doesn't have to be a half an hour movie. I mean, a 2-hour movie.
Maybe in this Castle Rock show.
I think, like, there are so many independent movie makers out there right now who make the art of the short film has really progressed since that story came out, and since all of the attempts at making this into a movie have come out. I think that if one of these writers took this and made this into a short film, honestly, you could do that story in 20 minutes, if not less. Because it's very effective and done right. That would scare the crap out of people.
I agree. Another Stephen King classic, Misery.
Yes.
And a fantastic example of anyone who at one point in time, like the teacher who challenged him that he couldn't write women, Misery and Dolores Claiborne, both Kathy Bates movies.
Dolores
Fantastic.
Claiborne. I love that movie. I loved her boss. I did not get her boss in the beginning, but at the end, when he told her, like, sometimes you have to be a bitch, and she didn't get it at first, and then I love the book, and the movie was excellent.
Fantastic.
Yes.
And Kathy Bates is great in both those movies.
Oh my gosh.
I just love Kathy Bates. She's amazing.
She's also on American Horror Story.
She was funny.
Oh, yeah.
On American Horror Story.
Yeah.
In the chat, they're talking about Thinner. What do you guys think of Thinner? That's a Richard Bachman book.
Oh, die clean, white man from town. That is that line. The book was awesome. And the movie, the thing that endeared the movie to me was not so much the lead characters, but what oh my goodness, what is his name? He plays Agent Rossi now on Criminal Minds. The mob guy he went to go get, and he was the one that went to them and threatened the old guy, and then that's when they were like, no, don't send any more of your people here, like we'll lift it for you. What is his name? Now I have to look it up. He made that whole movie for me, because when they came back and it was like he was a mook, but he was my mook. I loved him so much in that movie, and he was just the tough guy. And I'm looking it up now because he plays Agent Rossi on Criminal Minds. Wait.
Did you guys like the Thinner movie?
I
remember liking it.
Thinner.
I think it's fun. I mean, it's one of those ones that gets a lot of shit, but I think it's a lot of fun.
Oh no, it was good. It was
another one that gets a lot of shit. It's really funny because Stephen King directed it himself. Is Maximum Overdrive. I still like it better than the fucking TV movie Trucks that tried to do it more accurately. I think Maximum Overdrive, I think the reason that scared me so much as a kid, it was one of the first movies I saw where you saw kids fucking getting massacred. Like, usually kids don't die in movies, but in that movie, kids are fucking getting killed all over the place. It was awesome. But also scary if you're a kid.
That damn movie. Joe Montana, that's who played in Thinner. Joe Montana, I had to go find him because I loved him in Thinner. He was so awesome.
Thinner's a lot of fun.
Yeah, Thinner was fun. Maximum Overdrive was Emilio Estevez. Like,
he was hot in that. Like, I don't think Emilio Estevez is a sexy actor, but he was pretty sexy in that movie.
Yeah, he was funny. Yes, I read part of Rage, Chris, and yeah, they did pull it from publication. They had an incident. I know at least one incident of someone actually copycatting the events in the book at a school, And then once
What's Rage about? I haven't read that one.
It's about a student who goes to school and takes the classroom hostage and shoots the teacher. And so once, and there was actually an incident with someone, again, copycatted the events of the book. And then once the school shootings began to take place, he pulled the book. You can't get it anywhere. You can't order it off of Amazon. You can't pull it anywhere because they first of all, and then there was another school shooting that took place, and Rage was one of the books that they found in the shooter's belongings, and so he pulled it. But yeah, it was about a student that went to school and had a moment, you know. I believe he shot the teacher and took the class hostage or something like that. But he pulled the book from publication, so you can't find it anywhere. The only way you would get it is if somebody has a personal copy and they're selling it, but it's not available for order.
Auntie Creeps mentioned Salem's Lot, and Salem's Lot is so good because, I mean, if you like it for the horror of a small town that kind of just literally devours itself, Salem's Lot is such an amazing story. And again, it was written before his books became very bloated. And there's a fantastic movie directed by Tobe Hooper. But I have to say, I'm a little partial to the miniseries they did that had Rob Lowe and Donald Sutherland.
The miniseries was awesome.
It was fantastic. It was so good. And it had so much that was left out of the movie. Like when the couple that live in the trailer, they eat their baby. Oh, it's so scary.
Yeah.
So dark.
David Soul in it, yeah.
Quite a few miniseries, and there are quite a few miniseries that are also movies. And one that comes to mind is The Shining, because Stephen King hates The Shining movie, and I like it visually. I like a lot of the scenes of the hallways and stuff, but the performances are shit. I'm sorry, you guys are gonna hate me, but I think Jack Nicholson way overacted in that movie, and Shelley Duvall is fucking irritating as all fuck. Like, I would have fucking cut that bitch. She's crazy. Horrible performances, but visually it's an amazing film. And so they made the mini-series to try to be closer to the book, but yeah, no, that mini-series is shit. The kid in that is fucking awful.
Well, but to Steven Weber's credit, he played the hell out of Jack Torrance in the miniseries. He did
a good job. See, that's the problem. In the movie, I don't like how Jack Nicholson plays Jack Torrance, because it's not that I don't like Jack Nicholson, because I do. What I didn't like about his performance is, if you read the book, Jack Torrance really struggles. He really struggles to maintain who he is. Unfortunately, he's weak, and that's why these spirits are preying on him. He's weak because he's an alcoholic, and they want to get to Danny. But he's fighting with everything in his power to not let them take him. And ultimately, he ends up sacrificing himself to try to save his son. He does love his son dearly. And in the Kubrick version, I don't think we saw that as much.
Well, he didn't.
Yeah, Steven Weber did a great job, but the kid who played fucking Danny was irritating as all hell. And then the hedge monsters... The hedge maze creatures that they had, which is cool in the book, it looked terrible in the miniseries.
Yeah.
But Rebecca De Mornay did a great job as Wendy.
Yes. She rocked that. Rebecca De Mornay rocked it. And Steven Weber, I mean, even the makeup effects, because, you know, there's only so much that you can do on TV, and especially for when it came out. But the makeup effects that they did on him as he progressively became more and more possessed by the spirits in the hotel, he was really, that was creepy as hell for a television series. And then they stayed with that the storyline that he fought it, and at the end, but not so much, it wasn't so much in the book that he sacrificed it for his son. It was that he had a moment of clarity, and the hotel was like, hey, you didn't dump the boiler, and we're about to go up in flames. And he had that moment of clarity, and instead of dying outside in the cold like Kubrick had him do.
So that scene is amazing.
He backed up, he backtracked and went to go try to save the hotel. So he ran downstairs and he ran to the boiler to dump the boiler because that was the thing he was supposed to do, and he caught on fire. So you saw this. It described him as a thing, like his hands caught on fire as he was trying to turn the knob to dump the boiler, and then the hotel exploded. So yeah, the boiler was like this really key thing that he was supposed to consistently remember to do, and in all of the "I'm about to kill you guys," he forgot about that. So yeah, the moment the clarity came, that's the only thing that kept him from going after them was the hotel like knocked on his shoulder like the boiler. We can't do it ourselves. And then he took off and ran in the other direction. But yeah, so they both had parts in them that appealed to me. I like both movies for what they are. Poor Shelley, Stanley Kubrick, she was so irritating because he had her do that over and over and over again. Like he kept her in tears. So the takes that we got,
and it sucks because Wendy's a strong character, and we had this
very strong
weak character because she was terrorized by Kubrick.
Yeah. So what we see on film is where he had broken her down. So the irritation we get from her being so whiny, like she was at that point by the time he was like, okay, this is the take, 127th time, this is awesome, let's put this on film. And she was
another interesting thing about Steven Weber, he does play Jack Torrance in the TV miniseries. He also does the audiobook for it. So Danny's been listening to the fucking audiobook for like the last month. So I've been hearing Steven Weber a lot in this house.
Yeah.
He does a great job.
Yeah, he was awesome. Another book, did you guys read his anthology, Full Dark, No Stars?
I have not read that one.
Yeah, that is it very much, that's a very apt name for that book. There is no light for any of those stories in that book. It is full dark, no stars, for real. Like all of those stories are just get you a drink and don't expect any happy sunshiny. There's no sunshine in any of those stories.
The collection that had 1408 in it, which I remember was like the only one I really liked in that collection. It's one of the more recent ones I read.
Which collection was that?
I don't remember because I listened to an audiobook.
Oh.
I like the audiobooks where Stephen King reads his own work. He did it with Needful Things, and he did it with the 1408 collection. There are a few other ones, too, but I love it when an author reads their own work. I always find that really fascinating.
Did you see the movie for Needful Things?
You know, that's another one that gets a lot of shit. What do you think of that one? I thought that was good.
It's such a fun movie. It's so fun. And cool thing, the woman played Zelda.
Blood and Smoke was the name of the audiobook I listened to. There you go.
The woman who played Zelda from Pet Sematary is in Needful Things. No, it was a woman too. Like they did the voice and stuff. No, not. She played a part in Pet Sematary, but she's in Needful Things. And so, speaking of crossovers, but that was such a fun movie. I loved Bonnie Bedelia in that movie, and it was just and the devil in that movie. I can't remember his name right now, but he was just he was awesome.
I always liked that book because there's a character named Nettie in it, and I'd never heard that anywhere else before. But that's what we call my mom. I mean, that's what people call her. I call her mom, but my mom's name's Annette, and everyone calls her Nettie, and so it's like I don't know. Made me partial to it. I also just thought it was a cool concept, how he was literally like buying people's souls with material objects. So I thought it was neat, and I love everything set in Castle Rock is really cool because it so ties together with so many of his other works.
Yeah.
One of the miniseries that I don't think gets enough love, and it's really solid, is Tommy Knockers. That is great
Tommy Knockers. Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
That's another one I haven't seen, and it sounds like it's awesome.
It was good.
Someone also mentioned Firestarter a while ago, and I'm a huge Drew Barrymore fan. I love Firestarter.
George C. Scott.
God,
George C. Scott was
yeah, he was
incredible.
scary. And he was a
And
Raybird, I think is the character's name.
yeah, George C. Scott. He was awesome. He was like, "Come here, I just want to put you to sleep."
It had Martin Sheen in it.
Martin
But,
Sheen.
yeah, I thought that was
Yes.
good. I mean, I saw that when I was a kid, and so I was like the age of Charlie, Drew Barrymore's character, and I used to like get my mom's hair dryer and blow my hair back and be like, "I'm a fire starter!" The other thing
Did you tell it to back off?
Yeah, back off.
Back
That
off.
was so great. The other thing I used to do is I saw Carrie when I was really young, and the part at the end where she reaches out of the grave and grabs Sue's leg. Yes. Oh my God, that used to scare the shit out of me. And Stephen King in On Writing, he has some pretty funny stories about that. There was some guys in front of him at the theater.
Yes,
and they were talking shit about that movie, and they jumped a mile high when that part happened.
Yeah,
that part used to scare me, and I used to run kind of like Tad does in Cujo. I used to run and jump over the mat to get to my bed so Carrie wouldn't get to me, but my bedroom was on the second floor, so she'd have to be like on my couch, like jumping. But that used to really, really scare me. That was terrifying.
Crazy Ralph. Yeah, they did make the long walk into a movie. It's called Hunger Games.
Or Battle Royale.
Yes, The Long Walk is in the movie. Yeah, he wrote Dreamcatcher, which I liked Dreamcatcher, and the movie. I was so sad. I hated when everybody died in the movie. Too. I liked the movie. I loved the characters in Dreamcatcher, so I was sad when they died.
It reminds me a lot of It, honestly, Dreamcatcher does.
Yes, because of how their relationships are all built, the friendship. It's very wonderful, too. I love that story. But I had a friend tell me that they didn't like the movie because it was so far off from the book, but I haven't read the book, so I don't know.
I read the book when I was really young, and I remember thinking it was a little too bizarre for me, but, especially, I mean, even when I was in high school, I was pretty, I don't know, I think if I read it now, I might be able to wrap my head around it better.
Mm-hmm. No, I remember the movie, the alien's character name was Gray, Mr. Gray. I wonder if that has connection, I'm sure it has connection to Bob Gray and It, correct?
Well, Bob Gray's the leper, right? So
Bob Gray
I thought it was gray like gray aliens.
That's what I too, and I was thinking they had a connection because of that. Do you remember the ending of Dreamcatcher?
Mm-hmm.
I remember the ending of it, yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering if that had a connection since they were both, like alien-like creatures.
In the universe of Stephen King, anything is possible.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Mr. Shadow, he lost so much weight to play that part. I had Donnie Wahlberg to play in Dreamcatcher.
Well, in Sixth Sense too.
Yeah, but in Dreamcatcher, and he lost so much weight, and this gait that he perfected. To be able to walk and all that stuff, and when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, that is him!" Like, wow.
Dead Real mentions the Carrie remakes. So, Dead Real, I'm gonna make a video on it here very soon. But we're doing Shocktober in October. We're gonna review a movie every day, and there's a list of kind of scavenger hunt things. Like you gotta do a Universal movie and a Vincent Price movie, and so many slasher movies, so many movies directed by women. It's gonna be just awesome. But I'm gonna be doing Carrie, the remake, and Carrie 2. But with the Carrie remakes, there's things I like about all of them. Like the TV one, I thought Angela Batis was a great Carrie because she's so good at playing that kind of unusual character. And I liked that they showed the raining of rocks in the beginning. But, I mean, overall, it's not as good. I mean, none of them are as good as the Brian De Palma film. But, God, Carrie 2 is like my fucking guilty pleasure. The Rage Carrie 2, that gets me in my feels, dude. Like, I don't know, maybe it's because I was a teenager when I saw that, but I love that movie. I was like a weird goth girl in high school, so maybe that's why, but I fucking love The Rage Carrie 2. For For the remake, though, I liked the remake. I thought Julianne Moore gave a phenomenal performance as Margaret White. I was not happy with the casting of Chloe Grace Moretz, though, because I just don't think she captured that kind of unusualness that is Carrie. I mean, it's not just that Carrie, in the book, she's covered in zits and stuff, and she's dressed, funny and stuff. She's so out of the realm of high school, and I just didn't get that with Chloe's character. Chloe's, version of it. But it's still good. I mean, I enjoy all of them. What do you guys think?
I loved the rage. That I loved so Carrie good. Too.
Why does that get so shit on?
I don't know. And when she powered up at the end and you saw the tattoo vines come across her arms and you were like, yeah, everybody's about to die. Like, it was
awesome. Loved that. I thought it was so
I loved it. What I did not like about Angela Bettis's version of Carrie and Chloe Grace Moretz's version of Carrie was their, I don't know if to call it mannerisms, but the way they acted out the part after the blood was dumped on them.
Yeah.
Like the way Angela Bettis was walking and down the street with her hands out, and she just, I was so like,
she kind of goes into like a trance. Like, she's not even, she's so fucking out of it. She's not even fully aware of what she's doing. In fact, in the book, there's a scene after the Black Prom. Carrie is dying. Carrie's dying in the street. It's after she's killed her mom and stuff. She's dying in the street, and Sue comes upon her, and she sees, she's still just a girl, a very wounded girl. But Carrie doesn't mean her any fucking harm. She was just, they pushed her too fucking far, and I think Sissy Spacek, as far as where she's at when she starts blowing everything up, Sissy Spacek did it best because she's just kind of outside of herself.
Yeah, like when Angela Bettis was walking and she had like her hands down at her side with her fingers like pointed straight out, and she was just kind of doing this robotic walk, and it was too much for me. It was like she was too stiff, and it was just
she wasn't. But I agree with what you're saying.
Believable. Like, after she was, I liked her up until the blood came in, and while she was still on the stage, I was cool. When she walked down and started walking down the street, I was like, yeah. And then Chloe looked more like she was, I'm going to make up a word, she looked like she was more fit-inable at school. So you really didn't see her as so somebody
more like a normal teenager. I mean, even when she stands up to her mom and stuff, and Carrie is based on two girls Stephen King knew from school. One when he was a teacher, one he went to school with. And, I knew girls like that. Girls who had, like, the weird parents, who had no friends, and they didn't know how to social. It wasn't even that they were not attractive or anything. Like, I knew one girl, and she would have been, pretty, but, like, she had, like, gobs and gobs of earwax in her ears. Like, she just didn't know how to people. She didn't know how to talk to people. Like, if you talk to her, she would just kind of get like a blank look. But I mean, she seemed like a nice enough girl, but she was so detached from everyone else that she had this kind of otherness about her, and Chloe doesn't have that.
No.
Chloe looked like if you just gave her a chance, she could have easily fit into any crowd.
Yeah. So that was my thing. I think Sissy Spacek did it best. She will always be Carrie.
She reads the audiobook too.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. She'll always be Carrie. And just like, while I loved the mothers in the remakes, Piper Laurie will always.
God, she's so good. When she gives that speech about how Carrie was conceived, it's so amazing.
And she said, and I loved it, and he put his hands all over me. Stop it!
Oh my gosh!
Oh my God, that speech. And then when she was leaving for prom, they're all gonna laugh at you. I was like, oh my God. She was Piper. She will always be just flipping awesome. Just like even though Karen Black has been in other movies, and I know it's a little off topic, but women, Karen Black has been in other movies, but she will always be the woman from Trilogy of Terror to me, and that damn Zuni fetish doll. So, some people are just made for certain parts,
What was your favorite Stephen King movie adaptation and Stephen King book for both of you?
I have so many favorite movies. I love Silver Bullet, but I've never read the book, so I don't know how close it is.
The book was meant to be a calendar, so it's really short. It was meant to be a calendar, and so you got like a story every month, but it's good. But I like the movie.
Yeah, I love the movie. I love Secret Window. I haven't read the story yet, but I have it on my Audible, so I'm going to read that next after the Langoliers. And I also, I love The Mist. And
we haven't even talked about The Mist.
One of my favorite movies. It's so gut-wrenching. I just love it.
The movie is phenomenal. The movie is another one of those ones I think it's better than the book. Even Stephen King has said that they ended it better. I mean, the ending is kind of implied. The ending from the movie is implied in the story, but they fucking did it in the fucking movie. Like, it's such a good movie, but it's so fucking hard to watch.
And I hear that the TV series, I hear a lot of people hate it, and I haven't seen it yet.
It's coming to
Netflix I've been
next
really
month.
wanting to watch it. Oh, that's awesome. I can't wait to watch it. But I hear a lot of people are disappointed in it, and that makes me sad because I loved the movie so much, and I was so excited when I heard they were going to make a TV series out of it. I don't know. What's another one that I really love? Those are probably some of my top favorite ones. I feel like I'm forgetting. I love it. Just the story is amazing. I love both versions of the movie and the miniseries. They're both really good.
Fantastic.
We've
been doing a lot of It videos on my channel. So obviously we love It. We did a bunch. We have another one coming up too. Our picks on who we liked better, like of the performances from the miniseries and the new one. Like we love that movie.
There's so much to talk about. There's just so much content. The story is just so wide open. There's so many things, and so many different characters too that are just awesome. I don't know. What else do I love?
You love Secret Window, don't you?
Yes, I love Secret Window. I love it. I love Mort Rainey. I love all his lines. I love the way Johnny Depp portrayed him.
Yeah.
And John Turturro is amazing. He's such a quirky character.
Yes.
I always quote that movie. It's so funny. One day I want to go as Mort Rainey for Halloween. I have a robe. I thought about, instead of carrying around a shovel, like a little spade in my pocket, some random corn on the cob, plastic.
You should do Shoptober with me, and then have Secret Windows one of your days and dress up.
That would be so fun. I could do two different looks: the straightening things out look, and then the total losing it look.
I love it.
Yes.
What about you, Tracy? What are your favorite book or short story and favorite adaptation film wise?
My Bag of Bones was one of my favorite books from him.
I didn't like the movie of that one, but the book was good.
Mm-hmm.
The book was good. I'm stuck on Rose Matter. I read Rose Matter probably about 6 times.
Yeah, Rose Matter was good. I still remember when I read that. Like, I read it on a bus on a really long road trip.
It's so good, and I know some women.
And a great women's story.
Yeah, and I know some women who were in that situation, and so he, just the heroes of that story were, women. I love,
and it's so rooted in Greek mythology and stuff. So it's very different than a lot of its stuff.
It doesn't
have a lot of the cliches that people criticize Stephen King for. I mean, there's no psychic kid. There's, I don't believe it's set in Maine. I don't remember, but it's very different than a lot of his other stuff.
she traveled from one spot to
Yeah.
another to
It
get
reminds
away
me a little
from
bit of
him.
the Jennifer Lawrence, or not Jennifer Lawrence, the J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez movie Enough, but then throw in
Enough.
supernatural stuff.
Except he was nuttier than Jennifer Lopez's
Yeah.
husband. Like
Oh,
he was,
he's insane.
there were so many things in that book that just made it such a good book. And one of the coolest things about her character in that book, given that I now run a radio station, she became a narrator.
Nice.
That was her job.
Oh, that's cool.
She ended up getting a job
like
as
Creeps.
yeah, because she didn't have any skills. This guy had kept her basically captive in the home after they married, and so when she got to the new place, she didn't have any skills, so she learned how to do some things from the women's shelter that she ended up staying in, and then she went for a job. Somebody heard her voice, she went for a job, and then ended up becoming a narrator for books, which is really cool. But yeah, that's my favorite.
I love the painting scene. I just
The
love it.
painting.
The scene with the Minotaur.
Yes,
It's just amazing.
We're talking. If you guys haven't read
It
Rosemary,
was.
it's about a woman who has a very abusive husband, and she leaves. But of course, the past comes back. So I don't want to spoil it, but it's very, very good.
Yeah, it comes back
If you
in
love
a
Greek
very
mythology too. You need to read it.
and I'm a Greek mythology is one of my favorite areas of mythology. So all of that together in the same book. I'm so stuck on that book.
Also,
I've recommended it to
reminds me a
everybody.
little bit of another book of his called The Duma Key.
Yeah, Duma Key is
There's a
good.
painting in that one as well.
Yeah. So that was that's one of my favorite books. Again, Bag of Bones is another one of my favorite.
Did you like the movie?
I think it dragged a little. I remember watching it on Netflix.
I thought that was for me, that was one of the worst adaptations, because the book is pretty solid, but the movie, I just, Pierce Brosnan, I don't know.
Yeah. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. The book, again, the book was so much better, but
I feel like they just kind of simplified it into like this ghost story, and the story is so much more rich.
And it was so much more, it was so much deeper than that. My favorite movie, Christine. I love Christine.
Yeah, I love that one too. Did you know I have met Christine? I have.
Have you?
She was at a convention, and the guy who owns her now, they have her. He keeps her fully restored. He says they're in a relationship, which is funny. If you watch his YouTube channel, they have so many funny videos. Like Christine and him did the ice bucket challenge. Christine talks now.
Oh my God!
And I was a redhead when I met her, and we paid to get underneath her. You get underneath her, and your picture taken, and she's like, "I like redheads." She was so crazy.
Oh my God!
That's awesome.
I have her tire print. I'll get it for you guys.
Yeah, I love Christine.
Christine's autograph.
Oh my gosh! That's
my goodness!
So
Cool.
that's the
I love it.
car. I mean, she's made from a lot. They used a lot of different cars in that movie, but
yeah,
he got one of the cars, and then he got it kind of made from a lot of other cars that were used in the film. So I mean, she looks beautiful. It's amazing. God, that movie is so good. That book is so good too.
Yeah, the book was good. I loved the movie.
People talk about remaking that one a lot too, and I'm so reluctant because they did such a great job. Like, I don't know what I would change. It was so good.
Yeah, I wouldn't change anything.
And it's such a period of its time too, awesome. You know? I mean, now you can't find a fucking Plymouth Fury anywhere. I don't care how bad a shape it's in. If a Plymouth Fury was somewhere, anybody would pay a ton of money for it. But in the 80s, I mean, that was kind of common. Those relics from the 50s were still hanging around, you know? Mm-hmm. And so in the 80s, that story worked. But, I mean, I guess you could do it now and set it in the 80s. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know?
Yeah.
That one, Apt Pupil was a really good story and a really good movie. And Ian McKellen was just incredible in that movie. And yeah, Brad Renfro, I agree, Blue Sorceress. he was really good in that movie too. But yeah, Apt Pupil, I've seen that probably at least 10
It's
times.
very
It was just a
chilling.
really good movie. Yeah, it was
Someone mentioned
so.
also The Cell, and I have to agree. The Cell book was all right, but the movie was not good. It's not terrible, but it's not good.
Under the Dome sucked too.
I
The
haven't
series
seen
sucked.
that.
The
I
book
watched
was
the
good.
first 3 seasons, and then I didn't end up watching the last season.
Yeah, because it went off the reservation. Like they totally changed it from what it was, and it was, they stretched it out into something it shouldn't have been. If they that's a series that they could have just stuck with the book and it would have still been just as effective. But they
Right.
added too much to it. Like they had people getting out of the dome and going back home,
I think
and
that's
the
where I
dome.
Under the
left off.
Dome is interesting. Even before, like Carrie, back when he was really young, he had a vision of this kind of shield coming down and cutting a squirrel in half, and he had played with the idea for a long time. He'd written a couple rough drafts, but never been able to do anything with it. And eventually, that's what became Under the Dome. But it was written many years after he got the initial inspiration.
Yeah, they
The
should have.
concept was really interesting, but then I
Yeah,
just kind of petered out after a while for the
Yeah.
TV series anyway. I haven't
yeah,
read the book, so
I,
I'll have to
I
check
have to
that out.
say, my favorite of his books, like I said, is The Stand. The Stand, God, all the feels. And it's so hard, I think, for an author to write that many characters and that many characters that you're invested in. I was fully invested in every single character in The Stand. Like, I loved all of them. I love that book. I've read that book so many times. Like, that book is phenomenal. And really, in its own way, very uplifting. I really just love that book. I go back to that book a lot. And God, as movies go, God, I gotta say Pet Sematary, because I'm so hard to scare, and to this day that movie scares me. So Pet Sematary.
it was awesome. That was such a good
Just the concept of
book.
it, just being a pet lover and then thinking about
And it ages with you
bringing
too.
or any people too, like bringing someone back
I watched
if you
that
could do
movie
it.
as a child, and the scary sister in the locked room, and the fears of a child, your pets dying, your family dying, what would happen. All that stuff hit me as a kid. I watch it now as a parent, as a mother, and I just think, what would I do if something like that happened to my kid? And part of you thinks, I don't care, I would do anything. But then you see what happens, and you're like, God, is it worth it? It's not really them,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not. It's such a terrifying
Yeah,
thought. It really
it
gets at
is.
your
It really
inner
is.
core.
Yeah, and it really does make you think. Like, what would you do? Like, what lengths would you see postings and memes that go around whenever someone passes, and it's like, I wish heaven had visiting hours, or what would you do if you had just one more day with this person? And so when you lose a child, and that's where it hit you. It would have gone a different way if this was an adult first. Even though after he did this, then Judd told him all of the rest of the stories about all of the other people that came back and they were older and things like that. But yeah, to be faced with losing a child, that is something that no parent wants to experience. And yeah, in that place of grief.
It reminds me a lot of the Monkey's Paw too, which is a really old
Monkey's
Oh
Paw.
gosh,
Yeah,
I love that story.
I
It's
love that
such a
story
great
too.
story.
It is. It's
Buffy
such
the
a
Vampire
great cautionary
Slayer
tale.
also kind of did like a Monkey's Paw / Pet Cemetery one too, where after Buffy's mother dies, her younger sister does a spell to bring her back, and they keep telling her it's not going to be her. And there's this really creepy moment where you see their mother outside the window, the silhouette of their mother, and just before she knocks on the door, they rip up the spell. But I was like, oh, that was good.
Do you remember
Yeah.
in Practical Magic? I know this is
I love
totally
Practical
off
Magic.
task.
I don't even know why you're bringing
but-
it up, but I'm just absolutely happy right now.
When
A few well done witch movies, people. Take it from a witch.
Well, when they bring back the boyfriend, and she's like, "I don't care, just bring him back. He was already, creepy and unnatural." So, like
That one kind of worked though, because she didn't
Yeah.
want him. She just didn't want to go to jail for murder.
yeah,
So it kind of worked.
it does. He was already kind of messed up.
Yeah.
She was like, it's not gonna be much different anyway.
Yeah.
He was a dick.
Yeah. So yeah, he touches. There's so many themes that he touches upon in his books. Even in his Bachman series, the Long Walk was really dark. A really good book, but a really dark book. And the fact that it was centered around children and the things that these children went through in this book, it was hard to read, but it was really good. And yeah, I would like to see that actually made into a film, but I think it would be hard to do, more so because of the fact that it wasn't just the kids that were taking each other out. Like, you had adults killing these kids if they didn't want to participate in this thing. So it would
for this Castle Rock series, but it'd be wonderful if they made them based on his short stories.
I think, well, if they want to delve into the short stories, I think that The Road Virus Heads North would be a really good one, because that movie scared the crap out of me. Yes, Thinner was a good book, written under his pseudonym of Richard Bachman. Yeah, the Road Virus Heads North, that damn story scared the hell out of me.
I don't think I remember that one. But he has so many great short stories. Remember that? I can't even remember the one where the guy ate himself. Do you remember that one? God,
No, I don't.
It was a long time ago. That one's a Night Shift.
I don't remember that one.
I think.
I don't remember that one.
That was fucked up.
The Road Virus Heads North was in Everything's Eventual, and that damn story was so terrifying. And I read that story at noon. It was bright sunshine outside, and I got finished reading it and was checking all of my doors. It was just horrifyingly terrifying, and made me not want to have any artwork on my walls ever, because something is going to come kill you if you collect artwork. So,
yeah,
that's a really interesting concept. I like that. I haven't read that one. So
it's in Everything's Eventual. And then he wrote a short story called The Gingerbread Girl, which I read, and that
I would also like to
really
see a movie of The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. So you just reminded me.
I read that one.
Yeah, I read that one
was
too.
A good one.
That'd be a great movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
That little girl
so
was awesome.
Suspenseful.
Mm-hmm.
But you're talking about Gingerbread Girl.
Yeah, Gingerbread Girl was it was such a good short. And so for those of you who haven't read it, and if you don't want to hear it, then spoiler alert. But so she lost a child. She was married, and she lost a child. So she lost herself in running. So that was her way of coping. She started running. A mile, 2 miles, 10 miles. She just ran every single day. That's how she coped. And so as a result of all of this running, she developed these like really strong leg muscles, which came in really handy. So she was running one day on the beach, and she saw something strange happening. And she saw this guy she would see this guy every day, and she saw this guy on the beach. And so long story short, he ended up kidnapping her and taking her into this home and tying her to this chair. But because she had developed these really strong legs from running, she was able to like break the legs of the chair to escape. And then she ended up, with the big showdown with the dude, and ended up beating the hell out of him and killing him. But it was just it was definitely a short. I think it was published in like Playgirl and a couple other places like that. And then they took it and they added it to he took it and added it to a book. So it's really short. It really is like a couple of pages worth of magazine story. But done well, it would make a really good movie. And it really touched upon the whole grieving process of, losing a child and adapting to that, and her just getting lost in this thing. Her husband was kind of at her about it, and that it alienated her husband and it alienated her dad, and she ended up moving away, and she went to this house where her father owned it, and that's how she ended up getting in trouble, so to speak. But that was her way of dealing, and if she hadn't started running, it probably, she would have suffered, just sat in the house and just suffered from this depression. So that was her way of coping, and ended up saving her life, which is, yeah.
Is there an adaptation that you would like to see remade? Because, I mean, that's such a dodgy one. Nobody ever wants to see a remake. But is there any out there that you think, yeah, that one deserves a remake?
No. No. I
have to think about it a while.
Hate, like, a lot of people shit on Children of the Corn. Children of the Corn scares the shit out of me. Like, I wouldn't change it, even if the effects of the end are bad. Children of the Corn is awesome.
We're live tweeting Children of the Corn this coming Friday.
That's awesome.
We're live tweeting Friday, so we'll be doing that. Yeah, it's on Netflix, so we're doing that Friday.
I love Children of the Corn. I'm trying to think of one that just wasn't quite good. I mean, I didn't like Bag of Bones, but I don't think it needs to be remade.
No.
Shit.
It's something I'm gonna have to think about for a while, I think.
Because like It, I wouldn't have said It should be remade, but I'm glad they made a new one. It was a good movie.
And I don't want them to remake anything, unless they would take Under the Dome and actually make it a
okay,
movie.
How about this? Is there a adaptation or story out there that doesn't get enough love that you want to recommend to everybody in the Gory Hole? That maybe they haven't seen, like an obscure one. One I don't know if a lot of people have seen. It's Sometimes They Come Back, which is based on a Stephen King short story.
Oh yeah,
I love that movie, and I don't think enough people have seen it. Sometimes They Come Back is really good. It's got a lot of heart. Yeah, the effects are a little cheesy, but it's a really, really good story.
I love Sometimes.
So that's a movie. So check that out if you haven't seen it. What about you guys? Is there one where it's like, God, nobody's seen this one, but they need to see it?
I can't think of it.
As bad as people say Langoliers was Dead Real, I actually liked it because I liked Crazy Balky.
I liked it too. I remember I was like, Balky, when I first moved to America. Right. Perfect Strangers was this show I got into, so I liked Langoliers.
I did. I liked him when he went off the reservation.
Yeah, I mean, the
I'm reading that one right now.
I forgive bad effects if the story's good, and the story's good.
Oh, Cat's Eye was awesome. I love.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Cat's Eye is so good.
I love that. Was
a collection of his short stories.
So yeah, I loved Cat's Eye.
And yeah,
in general, was awesome.
He loved Drew Barrymore. That's what she's brought back for that one. But he used to do a big haunted house every year where people, in his neighborhood could come up, and they had a big haunted house. You can go in Stephen King's house. They had to stop doing it because he started getting stalkers. At one point, a stalker came into his bedroom and went after his wife. So, he couldn't do stuff like that anymore. But there's stories about how, like, Drew Barrymore got to come over, and just, it was so fun to see the whole family would engage in telling these scary stories. It seems like such a cool place to grow up, his family.
Yeah.
And of course, I know we're talking about Stephen King, but I gotta say, I have a lot of love for Joe Hill, his son, who's also a good horror writer. Stephen King has said before that if he were to die, Joe could finish his book and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Lawrence was awesome.
Yeah, they wrote a book together. God, why is my brain not working? It was in remembrance for Richard Matheson, inspired by Duel. That was good. It's about a motorcycle gang. I cannot fucking remember the name of it right now, but Joe Hill's amazing. I love Horns. It's gonna be one of my favorite books. And Nosferatu, I mean, it reads like, if you like Stephen King, you need to read Nosferatu. Nosferatu is so good and so scary. So awesome. And he has his own thing going on, too, which is amazing.
One I just thought of that I don't know if how many people have seen it is Big Driver. I really liked that movie.
Like
it has Maria Bello in it.
I saw that one not that long ago, like a couple years ago. That was good.
Oh,
yes, it is a good one.
Maria Bello is fantastic, and it had Joan Jett in it in a small role.
Yeah, that's right.
Joan Jett.
A lot of my friends hadn't heard about that one, and I remember really liking it and thinking the acting and just the development of the story was amazing, and how all of her inner dialogue drove the story. I just loved it.
You know, honestly, I know you're not supposed to say you want a remake. I'm going to be very unpopular here. I would like a good remake of The Shining. I think Kubrick did it well visually. I think they got the story kind of right in the miniseries, but I just feel like we don't have a really good Shining movie. For instance, like, I'd like to see Doctor Sleep, but, you know, you can't really do Doctor Sleep and say it's based off of the Kubrick one, because the Kubrick one changed a lot of stuff. Like, it's kind of bullshit, because in the book, Dick Halloran is trying to get there as fast as he can. I mean, it's from the beginning towards the end. And in the movie, he shows up and he just gets fucking killed. It's just like, oh, well, that sucked. He doesn't die in the book. He's alive.
You're right, and And not only that, but he's very integral to the events that take place in Doctor Sleep. So you can't do Doctor Sleep and not correct that in The Shining.
Someone remade it, did a great job, like they did with it. And you know, don't go off as Kubrick. Do your own thing. Do your own thing. Do your own Overlook. Do it like it was in the book. Keep Dick alive, and then do a follow-up, do Doctor Sleep. That would be cool.
Yeah, because he was very integral in the beginning, just the whole driving Doctor Sleep. So Dick he has to be alive in order for that to be done.
Speaking of Dick Halloran, too, if you read the book, Dick Halloran is in the book. When they talk about Mike Hanlon, his father gets cancer. And on his deathbed, he tells him a lot of things that he's kind of kept to himself over the years. And talks about how he was in the military, and there was a cook, a young guy named Dick Halloran in The Shining. But they had a place called the Black Spot, which is, they weren't, because there was a lot of segregation and there was a lot of racist people in Derry, they weren't welcome at the main bar there. So they got this, like, shitty-ass shed, but they turned it into something really cool. They had great live acts and stuff, and so people started going, and then it gets burned down, and it's kind of inspired by Pennywise, but also because they had kind of, I can't remember the name of it. It's not the Ku Klux Klan, but it's like the Ku Klux Klan of the North. They burn it down. And Dick Halloran is the one who tells Mike's dad. Mike's dad's going out one exit, and Dick, because he has the Shining, because he knows, he's like, you can't go that way, you need to go this way. And they're like, that's impossible. But of course it's right, because, you know, we know from reading the Shining that Dick knows more. You know, Dick sees the future.
Yeah. I forgot about Lawnmower Man. The original story for Lawnmower Man is nutty.
The original story, oh my god, it's nothing like the damn movie.
No,
it's nothing like it. In the original story, if I remember correctly, they hire a guy to mow their lawn.
Yes.
And he like mows. I think they hired someone because somebody ran over a cat.
Yeah.
And then the guy gets buck naked and he starts eating the grass.
Yes.
I don't remember anything more than that. Like, how did that become the fucking movie? That was all tech and
I don't know how that became, we're going to put intelligence in a computer and make it.
It was a naked dude eating grass.
Yeah, it was a naked dude eating grass. And he was eating cats and all types of stuff. It was so weird. And then I guess that was too weird for them. So they said, we're just going to take him and make him this computer guy and make Jeff Fahey this computer and make him kill people via computer.
Ariel mentioned The Running Man. That's one that's very, very different than the Richard Bachman book it's based on. How would you feel about a Running Man remake?
If they did it the right way, because it was nothing like the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
I like that movie, but it is nothing like the book.
It's nothing like that. It's completely different. I would like to see them make Insomnia into a movie. Actually, Stephen King's Insomnia. That would be a really good movie. Um, so yeah, I would like to see them do that. But yeah, no, Lawnmower Man was nutty.
There's a lot of short stories that I just don't think they'd make great full length movies. But I hope like maybe in this Castle Rock show we'll see them. There was a story in Nightmares and Dreamscapes, which I think they did make a bunch of those into like a mini series type thing. But do you guys remember the one where the guy's in the bathroom and this guy's been in the stall for a long time and you find out he's been in this bathroom the whole time and there's a dead guy in the stall? Like, I always think of that now. When someone's really quiet in the stall, I'm like, they're fucking dead!
No, I didn't
Stephen
see
King
that.
has ruined so much shit for me. Public restrooms, ruined. Not that they were ever
Is
good.
Nightmares and Dreamscapes the one where the guy gets bit by something out on the golf course and they think he's dead? And
Nightmares and Dreamscapes is a collection of short
they're about
stories,
to do.
but it was a really good one. I like that one.
Yeah.
Night Shift and Skeleton Crew, but I need to read more of them. I haven't read Just After Sunset. I haven't read Everything's Eventual. But I have read those
story is
three.
in Everything's Eventual, where the guy is in there like through his whole autopsy, and you can hear and see everything that's going on. It's in Everything's Eventual. It might be in a couple of stories. It might be in another book too. But yeah, it's in Everything's Eventual too. And
that is such a haunting thing. Like, oh my gosh, they're gonna do his autopsy and he's awake for it and he can feel everything.
And then I think, what was it? Did he blinked or something? It was something.
No,
that
it's
happened.
something comical.
Yes, yeah, it was. Okay, yes. And they were like, that's not supposed to happen.
Yeah.
They were like, that's not supposed to. Yeah,
okay,
no.
I need to read this now.
Yeah. We don't want to ruin it for you, but
so
it's
in
Everything's
Eventual?
Yes, it's in Everything's Eventual.
I'm sorry that I always go straight to dongs, but does the guy get a boner?
Yes.
I fucking called it! I'm like, Haley, you are
that was hilarious. And they were like, that's not supposed to happen.
That's hilarious.
And they were doing all of this stuff and he could hear them talking and they were getting ready. Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Have you read one of his more recent ones, Revival? That one was, I thought, really scary. I'd like to see that become a movie.
Oh, that was good.
The reveal at the end, I'm not going to tell you guys because I don't want to spoil it, but I'm somebody who's very afraid of death and, like, I don't know, like, I'm just scared of what will happen to me and stuff, and the reveal of what they say happens to you after you die is so horrible.
Yeah.
But I thought it was good. It was a really good book.
It was a really good book. I would like for them to, and people might think it's crappy because of, the quality, the film quality in which, because it's a product of its time, but I would like to see them put Needful Things back on TV because that was just a really good series just to see the crazy.
I miss the old ABC miniseries that they did.
Yeah.
They even did a couple original ones. Storm of the Century and Rose Red.
Storm of the Century was so good. I loved Combe Fiore in Storm of the Century. He was so creepy.
I remember one that I was really interested in. I really invested in. I tuned in every week because it was a longer one. Was Golden Years. I liked that one a lot.
That was good too. That was good too. I mean, they've done so many just really, good adaptations. Like the movie for 1408 was really good
that was
too.
Fantastic. It was really good.
So I just it
was why I was excited for Cell because it's like that one had Samuel L. Jackson and John Cusack in it, and then they were reunited in Cell, but Cell just wasn't very good. We did talk about Tommy Knocker's earlier, Ariel. I think that one is fantastic.
Yeah, we love Tommy Knockers. Who played Gaunt in Needful Things? Let me go find his name because he was incredible, and he played the hell out of that role. And Bonnie Bedelia, I love her.
I wouldn't mind a remake of, not because it's bad, just because it's a little bit older. The Dead Zone movie with Christopher Walken is really good, but I think it's something that if we did a remake of, I think we could do something new with it, especially since we've seen the Dead Zone TV show.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know that I would want a remake of that movie though. Yeah, the Max von Sydow did
That's it.
Needful Things.
From
Um,
Exorcist.
yeah, I don't know that I would. So you know
Sorry,
how
that's a
we
good
say
question, but what's the Mr. Shadow wants to know what's the grossest Stephen King story?
besides Lawnmower Man.
Lawnmower Man, that's fucking it, dude. Or shit. What was the name of the one where the guy eats himself? Someone reminded me a little while ago. I have to go back and look. The one where the guy eats himself is pretty gross.
One thing that always sticks with me is in Dreamcatcher that the bathroom
Survivor
scene.
type. Survivor type is pretty fucking gross.
Yeah,
That bathroom
bathrooms.
scene
Oh my
is
god,
traumatizing.
yeah.
So
Yeah, Survivor type's gross. Lawnmower Man's gross. But as far as his like full length works go, like his novels, like what's the grossest one?
She just said it. That bathroom scene in Dreamcatcher.
That is pretty gross.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh my god, yeah. That was pretty gross.
yeah.
Uh, as far as, I don't know. Not. I think those like hold. I think those are the three like gross things. Because not a lot of things gross me out. So, um, body horror grosses me out more than anything. So yeah, like the alien in Dreamcatcher and that's so
yeah, no, I agree.
it was
definitely.
so
Mr.
bad.
Shadow.
Right, that was so bad. It was so bad.
Do you guys have a
But
favorite character in the Stephen King universe?
Oh my gosh, there's so
Mine's
many
Nick.
good characters.
I mean, bar none. You guys know that. I love Nick from The Stand.
yeah,
I love Ben is so sweet. Like he's just so sweet. I love him.
I mean, there's a lot I love. Nick's my favorite, though.
my favorite is the the lead in Rose Matter. That is my go-to. She is just
You know,
Rose Matter,
I love
hear
her.
that might be because they did A Good Marriage a couple years ago, which was based on a Stephen King story on Netflix, and they just did Gerald's Game, and they just did another one that's coming out next month, and I believe the one they're working on is supposed to be Rose Matter, but I don't know, maybe it is a theatrical release.
Rosie. Her name was Rosie. Yeah,
That was so good.
that's my all-time like Rose Matter.
Rose
I
Matter's
love
so good, and we have the ability with special effects now to really make that something special.
Yes. She could be.
I also absolutely
awesome.
love Mort Rainey. He's one of my favorites too.
Yes.
I can't not say Mort Rainey because
I
love
also love Charlie from Firestarter. I do love Charlie.
I'm like obsessed with Mort Rainey.
That's okay because he was awesome. I love Mort.
Yeah.
And I loved Mr. Gaunt from Needful Things. He was just that person. He was so smooth. What do you want? Oh, you want this high school jacket? If I give you this high school jacket, you need to do something. I love Max von Sydow. He was so incredible.
It was fantastic, yeah.
Yes. So yeah.
And of course I love Carrie White. She's fantastic.
Carrie will always be that girl that taught people not to mess with the girls in school. You don't know.
You don't
Creepy
know.
Carrie,
I mean, that's
creepy
what's
Carrie.
wonderful about Carrie is, be careful who you pick on because the people who you think are the weakest might surprise you.
Right. I loved her.
But that's a kind of a running theme in Stephen King's works, be careful who you bully, be careful who you push too far, because you don't know. It looks like a little girl, she's got pyrokinetics. It looks like just, some loser religious girl, she can, move shit with her mind. You don't know who these people, the Losers Club, they end up being saving dairy, and they're the people that, everyone picked on. So that's a running theme. Also, psychic children. There's a lot of fucking psychic children in Stephen King stuff.
Yeah.
And children losing a loved one. That's an ongoing theme.
Yeah, definitely. And then just the whole concept of this town where these kids, nobody lives past 18. For them, 18 was old, and it goes back to what children feel like. Like, children feel like they're immortal. Old 18 is old to them. So the children of, and yeah, they were, he who walks behind the rose, and there was all this supernatural stuff going into it. But to
I wish with the Children of the Corn, because a lot of times he kind of screws the pooch in his endings. Children of the Corn would have been creepier without the demon in the cornfield. It was just
it would have. It would have.
Isaac was scarier than that fucking demon. Isaac was fucking awesome.
My favorite part was when he came back and was like, he wants you too, Malachi.
Guess what? Here's a little bit of trivia. So apparently Trey Parker, who does South Park and does, Cartman, like, no, kid, my papa, that, he didn't remember where he got the inspiration for Cartman's voice, and then he was rewatching Children of the Corn, and he realized he got it.
And he heard Isaac.
Oh my gosh.
From fucking
that
Isaac
is
and
awesome.
Children of the Corn is the inspiration for Cartman.
I love that movie. And when that was my part, though. You can't get me!
Where the kids, like, kill all the adults and stuff. Like, that needs to creep the fuck out of me.
That part at the beginning where they just offed everybody in the restaurant. Yeah.
That scared the hell out of me when Isaac's face comes into the window. Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Another one that needs to really scare me, speaking of windows, is in Salem's Lot when the little boy comes back and he's like scratching on the window. Oh, dude. Fuck no, dude. Fuck no. Or when they go into the room and the guy's just in the rocking chair. Fucking Salem's Lot, dude. Fuck that.
No, that the part that got me will always be Gage and Judd.
Ah, right on the Achilles heel. And I love Judd too. He was Herman Munster.
Yes, so that part, and then when he called his dad, we play daddy. First I play with
my gosh.
Judd. You did the best impression
then
of that.
I play with mommy. We play daddy. We had awful good time. Now I want to play with you. I was like, oh my god,
the part where after he injects him and he goes, no fair.
No fear. Oh my god, yeah. He was like, no fear. No fear. And then he did the little cry. I was like, Gage! But you remember he was a horrid little demon.
Yeah, Crazy Ralph mentioned Pasco. God, he was fantastic.
Oh my god, when she was like,
Pasco tries so hard. Pasco is so much better than the fucking turtle, because Pasco is the turtle of Pet Sematary, or he's trying so hard to use Ellie's ability to get her to save her family, but it's just, he can't do anything. He has no real power, and it's always too late. It's so heartbreaking.
It was. And when she came back, he was like, it'll be different this time. She just died. It'll be different. I'm not waiting as long this time. You'll see. You'll see. I was like, oh my god. Yeah, he was gone at that point.
That movie also did a good job because Stephen King in his books, he always quotes a lot of songs, and he used to listen to like AC/DC and the Ramones and stuff a lot when he was writing. And if you read Pet Sematary, there's a lot of Ramones mentioned throughout the book. So it was cool that they got the Ramones to do an original song for the movie.
Yeah.
Which is also why Christine is like perfect just the way it is, because they had all that music in there.
Oh, it had the best music, especially after she, ejected him through the window and she played I'll Forever Love You. It was like, no, Arnie, no. Yeah, I love Christine. That was my movie. That damn car was evil. Remember when he was choking her and she was trying to get out the car? He played You Keep a Knocking But You Can't Come In.
That's how Christine talks through the songs.
It's like, that was so damn mean. And she had a song for everything.
The guy who owns her now, he has a YouTube channel, and he does the same kind of thing. Like he did, like I said, he did the Ice Bucket Challenge. They've done some other videos, but she'll play songs and stuff, like "Prove My Love," which was also in the movie. It's really funny. The guy's name is Bill. God, God, what is that guy's name? If you look on our channel, we did a review of Christine the book versus the movie, and we interviewed that guy. His link, I believe, is in that video. It was a while ago, but it was really cool.
That movie. Well, we can't talk about Stephen King without talking about Creep Show.
Bill Gibson is the one who owns it. That's it. Yeah,
I love Creep Show.
We have to talk about Creep Show. And my favorite part in Creep Show, it was like, I got my cake.
That was good. I even like Creep Show too a lot. Someone mentioned The Raft earlier, and I thought The Raft was so good. Oh gosh,
I love The Raft.
Oh, yes.
We had a dock just like that at this place called Sun Lakes where we used to go camping as kids. So it reminded me so much of my childhood.
Yeah, the Raft. I like the Hitchhiker. Thanks for the ride, lady.
Oh, yeah.
And he was just, every time she rode past him, he just was more and more decomposed. And thanks for the ride, lady. That was so awesome.
Creep Show was fantastic. So fun.
Yes, I love that movie. I like the first one too with the statue, and they killed all of them with the hatchet. Like I love Creep Show. Creep Show is the only thing I didn't like about Creep Show was the damn roaches. Oh God, that they could have left that out.
Yeah, the roach one was bad. I liked the crate though. The crate was good.
The crate was awesome. And he the way in the crate. I hated the roaches though. Oh God, that I fast forward through that because that's like the ultimate. I'd have to burn down my house. I couldn't.
Oh gosh, I remember we went to Disneyland one year, and there's a campsite across the street from Disneyland, but it's all concrete, so it's not really camping. But they have so many fucking cockroaches that if you walk around, it sounds like you're walking on potato chips because there's roaches everywhere.
Ew. That was so gross.
They're
when he
huge.
Ew, they're so gross. Like when he opened up the box of cereal, I was like, ugh, I can't. It was so nasty. Like, why did you do that to me? But then, the lonely death of Jordy Verrill. Oh my God, just the whole.
He is so great in that, isn't he?
He was so great in that.
So great in that short. Oh, I love that.
He was this poor thing, and then when he saw that he was turning, he was like, "Oh my God!" He was touching himself like my plant.
He did so great in that. I love that.
It was so good. It was so good. And the Ted Danson and Leslie Nielsen, and to see Leslie Nielsen playing a bad guy.
Yeah, that was the first, I think.
Yeah, that was the first time I saw him play a bad guy. I saw him in something after that, but yeah, I usually saw him in these comic roles, and then he kills his wife and her boyfriend. Yeah, that was good. Yes, Stephen King, that's the guy.
Well,
I love Stephen
it's almost time for us to call it a night. Do you guys have any final thoughts about Stephen King?
He's amazing.
He's awesome and amazing and
Stephen King
wonderful.
Rules right here, guys.
He does. He does. He has such a legacy, and my daughters love him. One of the first book I ever gave to my daughters to read, my oldest girl to read, was Pet Sematary, and then she passed that down to my middle daughter, and it was my oldest daughter and her husband that took them to go see it last weekend. And so he's
my son was curious. He actually said he'd go see it with me, and I was like, well, you need to at least watch the miniseries first. And he's like, well, just tell me what it's about. So I start and I tell him about Georgia, and he's like, nope, they killed a 6-year-old. Nope, I'm done.
And it was so much more graphic in the new movie too.
It is. Poor Georgie.
I know.
Peace, Georgie.
Peace, Georgie. We're gonna pour out some for you, homie.
Some Snapple for you, Georgie.
Some Snapple out for Georgie. Go pour a little out for my homies. No, I'm grateful. I mean, Stephen King and Dean Koontz and John Saul.
I love John Saul.
Clive Barker and all of these authors that give us all of these worlds that we're able to escape to. I just, I'm grateful for literature,
and Robert
because you can
Hammond's
travel.
I really like.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Along with James Patterson and Michael
Yeah.
Crichton,
There's a lot of good ones
all
out
of
there.
these, yeah, and then like these authors that I get to interview, Alistair Cross and Tamara Thorne and Stephen Van Patten, and all of these authors that, just give us these worlds that we otherwise wouldn't experience. It's just, books are awesome and people should continue to read them a lot.
Yes, absolutely. Fantastic. Well, you guys, if you would like to see more of my lovely guest today, you can catch Tracy. You want to tell them where they can find you and Scream Radio?
So you can find me and my music at tracy.co. So that's TRACEE.co. Also terrorrecords.co. So just like it sounds, terrorrecords.co. That's my music website. And then you can find Scream Radio at SCRMradio.com. That is Scream radio.com, SCRM Radio on Facebook, SCRM Radio on Twitter, on YouTube. We are everywhere. We're on TuneIn. We have app on
horror
the App
radio
Store.
all the time, guys. So definitely check that out.
24/7.
A lot of favorites on there. Reverend
stories.
Hagen, Auntie Creeps. You guys need to check it out.
Auntie Creeps is in the chat right now.
Yep.
Auntie Creeps, hi.
There's a link to Scream Radio in the description of this video. There's also a link to Bunyip's Horror Gallery. You want to tell them where you're at? I think you're also on Twitter and stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter.
And a little bit
not
of
under
what you do
Bunyip's
as well.
Horror Gallery. On my channel, on Bunyip's Horror Gallery, I kind of like do movie reviews, unboxings for different like horror boxes. I also sometimes occasionally do different sort of projects where I make things that I get inspired from, like props in horror movies. Sometimes I do like costumes and stuff like that for like Halloween. I'm looking forward to doing some more of crafting things on there. But yeah, I'm on YouTube mostly. I do have an Instagram. It's not under Bunyip's Horror Gallery. It was started way before I started my YouTube channel. It's Miss Christina Chaos, or I think it's Miss Chaos Kitten. That's what it is. So I did change it. But yeah, so it's there. I post a lot of stuff on there, like horror finds and like when I'm shopping and just random stuff throughout the day.
Yeah,
so,
I love her channel. You can find her, like I said, in the description. And also, if you look at our featured channels where it says channels we're addicted to, you're going to find Bunyip's Horror Gallery on there. It is criminally undersubbed. So please check it out. Sub her channel. You guys, I don't just recommend anything. So I love Scream Radio. I love me some Bunyip's Horror Gallery. And,
Thank you.
You both very lovely, talented ladies, and I've had so much fun talking to you. And to everyone in the chat, we've had Dead Real, Crazy Ralph, Auntie Creeps, Mr. Shadow, Darling Darkness. All of you, thank you so much for joining us. And everyone who I forgot to mention, we've really appreciated just hanging out with you guys and talking about Stephen King.
It's been so much fun talking about Stephen King with you guys.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Thank you guys so much for hanging with us.
And Isabel, too. Thank you guys so much. Be sure to be subscribed to Horror Addicts so you know when our next stream is. You will see these ladies on again on a future Ghouls Night Out because they're my girls. So,
yay!
Thank you, ladies.
And we love you, too.
Aw, I love you guys. You guys are awesome. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Good night, guys. Thanks.